Venus is the second planet of our solar system, and even though it's the second one, it's also the hottest one. It is roughly 108 million kilometers away from the Sun, and it hides a whole load of secrets underneath its dense clouds. The entire planet is covered with clouds, which is why observing the surface with a telescope is pretty much impossible. Our first studies of the surface took place back in the 1950s. Before this moment, it was highly believed that Venus was actually a planet hosting life, much like our planet Earth. Either that, or that there would at least be some basic life forms. Also, fun fact, but Venus is the only planet you can see during the day here on Earth. If you know where to look, and if you're using binoculars or a telescope, you will be able to see it, as it is usually the brightest spot in the night sky, and it is also visible during the day. In the early 1960s, however, the Soviet Union started planning a series of missions that would fall under the program named Venera. The goal of Venera missions was to explore the Venusian atmosphere and surface and gain a better understanding of this mysterious cloudy planet. After many failures, in 1967, Venera 4 successfully entered the orbit and showed us that the cloudy atmosphere is made primarily of carbon dioxide. Venera 4 also confirmed that this planet is by no means habitable. As it got closer to the planet, the temperature quickly rose up to 262 degrees Celsius, and the atmospheric pressure increased to 22 standard atmospheres, and this wasn't even the surface level yet. Venera 4 was not designed to withstand these harsh conditions that it found itself in, so it had no choice but to parachute down to its own death. After many years of engineering problems and struggles, Venera 6 was eventually made in 1975. This probe managed to exceed expectations, and it operated on the surface of Venus for over 1 hour, and it was also the first probe to deploy its camera and transmit an image of the surface back to Earth. Finally, Venera 13 was the last probe which functioned for 127 minutes, recorded a temperature on surface of 457 degrees Celsius and a pressure of 89 Earth atmospheres. These missions proved to us that Venus is far from a nice welcoming planet, and they also showed us that it's instead a hellish, barren world. It's possible that Venus was not always this deadly. It was born 4 billion years ago from the same dust as Earth, so there's a slim chance that maybe, in the early stages of our solar system at least, Venus may have been a water world. High in the Venusian atmosphere, the water vapor would have cooled down and transformed into rain, which would in return flood the planet. Maybe it was even habitable at some point in history. Back then, the sun was smaller and potentially bathed Venus in a nice warm glow instead of cooking it alive. Venus would have found itself in its own sweet spot in the sun, and its Earth-like temperature would keep the temperature low enough for life to start flourishing eventually. However, this would probably be short-lived, as the sun would soon grow larger and hotter, heating up the planet and causing water to evaporate and return back into the Venusian atmosphere. This would cause the atmosphere to thicken and worsen the greenhouse effect. This effect would be so severe that it would practically boil the whole planet alive. The temperature would increase immediately, block off the sun, meaning that any form of heat that comes in would not be able to escape again. And this way, all the oceans would evaporate and Venus would remain, well, the way it is now. What once may have been a beautiful blue planet is now a living hellscape, and it will also unfortunately remain mysterious for a very long time, as the conditions on the surface are making it impossible to do any form of research. As for habitability, well, technically speaking, we could sort of live on Venus. Although landing on the surface would mean instant death, life in the high atmosphere of the planet, however, could be doable. The temperature would be relatively stable and appropriate, but the surface is likely never going to be walkable again. Our next stop is Earth, so we'll see you when we get there. Till next time.